Before we begin, a quick heads up. This episode may contain some strong language, mature themes, and conversations about many difficult topics. We like to keep it real around here, so listener discretion is advised. But thank you for listening. Now, on to our show. Welcome to the Sip and Saga Society, where we cover histories, mysteries, and just any story worth telling. Every week, Karina, Randi, and occasionally Greg cover a year in time while slowly traumatizing each other along the way. But the dun 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 dun. Okay, Rand.
I was
Sorry,
like, I feel like I could have brought a sound for you.
but
Pew
it's more
pew pew
fun
pew, like
here.
something just
Anyway, Christina's back from maternity leave.
Hello.
Yay! I'm so excited. And she has a friend, a tiny little
I
friend.
do. I do have the baby with me.
Dang, she has a lot of hair. You guys
I was
She
cannot see
does.
her.
just
She
thinking that.
does,
I was
yeah.
like,
She does.
everybody needs to know a
And
full
she
head.
didn't lose any of it.
She said, I'm keeping this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, me, I'm Karina. Hi. My name is
Hey
Karina and
there.
and
How
I'm one
are
of your
you
hosts.
today?
And today we're covering the year 1775. I could have segued better, but I didn't. So we all have our moments. Anyway, part one is going to be by Randi. Randi, what are you covering in your part of the
Is
year
this like the
1775?
teaser before we do the drinks?
Yes.
Um, so this was a surprise. I don't know if Karina read what I changed it to, because originally I was going to do another uh rebellion. Instead, I decided since I am on vacation and wanted to do something fun, I was going to do Jeanne Baret, who was the first woman to circumnavigate the globe.
Hmm.
And she completed that task in 1775.
Randi, that is so cool.
It's way more wild of a story. I hope you're ready because there is cross-dressing involved. There are hostile natives. There is leg ulcers. There's a lot happening.
Hey, sometimes you just have a leg ulcer, okay? It
I was gonna
happens.
say as there should be with cross-dressing, but then the list got worse. So I was like.
Okay, but that's
I,
that's the thing is people are so dramatic about drag, but also like cross-dressing has been a part of history forever. People
hmm
just wear clothes.
Oh
People
yeah.
can wear what they want.
That
hmm
is true.
hmm
That's just
hmm
facts. Anyhow, Randy, I love that. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to your story because mine, unfortunately, is covering the context for the story that I wanted to tell. Because once again, history. Originally, I wanted to talk about people of color in the American Revolution and what the role was for Black people during the war. Unfortunately, I had to go through a bunch of other things before I could even get to the fighting. Greg is nodding, as one does, because that's what we do with history. So I'm going to cover what happened right before the battle at Lexington and Concord. So most of my story actually takes place in 1774, and the whole time I was writing my notes, I was like, I hope this makes it there eventually. And it did. So I'm excited about that. But unfortunately, I will be talking about a lot of white men. A lot. It's so many white men. It's like 99.9% white men. And I had a genius idea for a drinking game that every time I say the word Lord, you have to drink. I don't care what your drink is. It can be, and maybe it should be water, but because there's so many lords in this story with the name, like, and it's not just Lord like Albertsons. It's like Lord Wood Whistle, and you're like, what the fuck is that name? And it's like it's been our
For
family name for
everyone who can't
generations.
For everyone who can't see this, Greg has already
I just already
wholeheartedly
started.
accepted
I was like,
this.
that's
Yeah.
silly.
Every time Karina just said Lord, which was three, I watched Greg take
I was just like,
a
oh,
drink
okay.
straight to the
Yes.
face.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stop now, but that's the game. Anywho, I thought it was genius. Well, speaking of which, Greg,
You,
what are you
I was gonna say,
drinking?
just real quick, what you need to do is like the Always Sunny like episode title ones is like the one where they black out. Like, yeah.
Well, I am on antibiotics, so I'm not drinking, but if I was. Okay, yeah, Greg, what are you sipping? Perfect
I
segue.
yeah, I have an Arkansas beer from New Province Brewing Company called Dreaming and Tangerine. It's a tangerine hazy IPA.
Oh, that is a
Ugh, I
really
love the
pretty bottle.
can. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's it. Randy, I see you got snacks. Brandy has Cheez-Its, everyone.
I know,
But
I'm
also,
so sorry. It is we are now right at my dinner time because I'm in Oklahoma right now, so I am enjoying these couple of Cheez-Its before we podcast because I'm gonna have to eat after. But they're gluten free for everyone who's wondering if I'm hurting myself tonight. I'm not.
I saw this in the store the other day, actually.
are they good?
They are actually so good. I'm gonna destroy this box because they taste to me pretty much exactly like Cheez-Its.
Well, and I wonder how much gluten Cheez-Its actually have,
The binding flour is all I would think it would have.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
assuming mostly cheese, I hope. Powdered cheese?
No. The number one ingredient is, in fact, the flour blend.
Damn. Every day.
And then vegetable oil, and then cornstarch, and then cheese.
I feel like it should be more. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Randy, what are you drinking?
Right, back on track. What am I drinking?
That's my
I
job.
have I have, my regulars today. I'm not consuming any adult beverages yet, but I do have my Dr. Pepper and I have my water.
Essential beverages. Now, Christina, do you
Essential.
have a Dr. Pepper?
I do. And
Yes.
I also have a
Excellent.
water.
Excellent.
Randy,
Glad to have you back. I'm so happy.
I was
We
gonna
will
tell
get that
you,
Dr. Pepper sponsorship.
we will. Why we will. We will.
Randy, it's time. Tell me your story, or tell all of us your story.
What are you drinking, Karina?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
You're so busy keeping me on track. Let me help you too.
Hey, it's because I don't have a tracker on this
That
one.
has color. I'm
I
proud of
know.
It
you.
does.
It is once again pink lemonade with sparkling water. But yeah, it actually you can't see through it. At least I like to stay hydrated. It
In
could be
that
worse.
mason jar, it's giving really cutesy vibes, truthfully.
Yeah.
With the little tapestry in the back.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I
Mm-hmm.
am. Anyway. Okay, now Randy. Oh wait. As you've just taken a snack.
I thought for sure you had two. I could sneak a cheese it in.
Nope. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, I'm closing everything to enhance our connection just to make sure that I don't mess up.
I
Don't
love when
mess
you work hard to enhance our connection, Randy.
up. I put in the work, guys. I'm glad you recognize it.
Honestly, we really do. I don't think we really let people know how long we work on these episodes, but they take a long time. We do a lot of note taking, reading, buying books. It's for the people, actually. That's why I buy excessive amounts of books.
Well, and what the other thing is, and one thing I have recently found more frustrating is finding the right story that I want to tell on a week that isn't my week that I'm telling the main story. So like when Karina's driving the year, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? What the fuck am I gonna do? I'm like, hold on. I'm smart. I can do this. I can handle it.
When there's like, just pick a thing.
Yeah. But there's like sometimes there's too many things, sometimes there's not enough things, and you're like, oh man, it just feels like a mountain to climb every time. It really does.
Well, honestly, once again, like I don't think we've ever really talked about our process, but we do we just pick a year and then one of us has a story we really want to tell. So whatever happened, like I'm just following the American Revolution and I randomly pick a time that follows wherever I want to go. But Randy actually has specific stories she wants to tell. And so she already has her years picked. So yeah, so whenever it's like my turn to tell the main story, it's like I don't fucking know either, Randy. I don't know where I'm gonna go.
I
I
mean,
haven't read that far.
yes,
And
this wasn't a grievance, just to be clear to everyone. I'm
no,
not like calling
no.
Karina's mom, don't come
But
for me.
oh, Christina, while you were gone, my mom came for us and she said we bully Greg.
hmm hmm She did,
Um,
and I was like, we really had to have a moment of reflection.
we did. And then I think I further bullied Greg, so I am the problem. What I meant with all of that was basically like there's a big story and a little story. And when I tell the little story, you like go into it being like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't like, I'm just here. And then you're actually looking at the year and it's very daunting because there
hmm
isn't, if that wasn't your plan, it just feels like very vague. Like,
hmm You're like suddenly like, what is this year? You're like, maybe a Ouija board would help me.
yeah. And, or
Let
like,
me pull a tarot card.
but you have all this stuff but it's nice because when there isn't anything or like it kind of leads you into these really interesting directions of what you can do and what kind
hmm
of story you can tell because like I do you think I ever would have picked up a book on hot air balloons like a year ago? Probably not. I
hmm
would have been like, "Oh, like that's cool, but like am I really that interested?" But it's like I had no other option but look into hot air balloons because there were like 7 deaths in this one year. There were no other choices. Those were the only stories being told that year. So, like sometimes, yeah, but then sometimes there's 1,700 stories I want to tell in this year. So that means like later we're gonna talk about 1775 excessively, I think, for the month of August because we have so much story to tell.
hmm Yeah, the story I actually didn't do for this recording, I will do for the next 1775 recording, the rebellion. So you guys will still get it. It'll be great.
It's coming. Yes, that's why there's always context. There's always more story to tell. And then there's I was telling Randy, I was like, this is like the longest story of America ever. And she goes, like second longest. And I'm like, you're right. There's a bunch more that happened. There's almost 250 years of American history that
Of
happened.
history. Shocking that it could
Crazy
take, a year of weekly podcast to tell.
to tell us. We didn't even get that
Snippet.
far.
It's just a snippet. Yeah, we haven't gotten
Yeah,
that far yet, but
we have gotten, we are just getting to the revolution part where they become an independent
and
country.
I do think it would be interesting for our listeners to know that I felt like we moved too quickly. I told Karina we were going too fast.
Randy
I
said,
was
wait a
like,
minute.
I was like, girl, we're jumping 40 years. And Karina was like, yeah, yeah.
I
They were
said,
all doing the
fuck
same
those
shit for those
years.
40 years. It was all the same.
And then we jumped, and now it's the 7 Years'
And
War.
now we can't do two separate episodes. We have to do two episodes on 1775 because there's so much content.
Yeah. We're trying to go in order, and
Oh
there's just so
my,
much.
turning tables.
It's crazy how it goes. Okay, Randy, tell
Okay, you
us.
ready to throw it back to our one of our favorite themes? Women on boats, women on boats.
Okay, honestly, I was like, how did this woman travel? Because my brain is still on hot air balloons. I was like, was it a hot air balloon? Because imagine,
Certainly not.
uh, that would be terrifying, honestly. Honestly. But also, Randy, boats.
Boats. Guys, boats.
Why do we love boats so
I
much?
honestly don't know because I did not even think when I chose this story what it would mean, and then I started going more into it, and I found even more, I found out even more about like boat experiences and maritime rituals. I swear, I'm learning a lot about these nautical little pieces. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Jean Baret. And before I get too far, I want to note that this is, in fact, a story about French people, okay? So the names are practically all the same. And I am going to say there is two different people. There's a way to say it for a man and a way to say it for a woman. And I'm going to try my best to enunciate right now clearly so that you'll understand for the rest of the podcast, okay? So Jean is female. Jean is male. Jean with
Randy,
an
there were
oo.
Subtle difference there,
Jean.
no
Christina.
differences there. There were
Jean.
none.
Jean with like an oo. Jean with an oo. That's female. Jean with an e. Jean. On. That's a male.
I feel like I'm
For
back
their
in French
last names
class.
because this is not gonna do this
Karina,
is
you said
I
there it
am
is. There you
no,
go.
I
no.
am going to do my best to use their last names.
Those are two different names. Okay.
Oh, there's two different names, and you got to remember this is French pronunciation. So they would probably say I'm still butchering it, but I am doing this for our ears, okay? Okay, so we're talking about Jean with the oon, Jeanne Baret. She is a woman that was previously lost to history. No surprise there, right? That's another thing that we do in this podcast. We're going to start in the Burgundy region of France sometime in the year 1740. Okay, so now remember, church records is not great at this time. What survives? So the majority of her early life is pieced together from legal documents and church records of like births and deaths and things like that. So this is going to be a very loose telling of her early years, okay? So 1740 is the year that our main character, Miss Baret, was born to parents Jean Baret, a boy, and Jean Pochard. Yes, in fact, all three of them have the same name.
Randy,
If it ain't
that should
broke,
be
don't
a
fix it, kind of
crime.
thing.
This should be a crime, I
No, this
think.
happens literally through the whole story. I can't tell you.
It makes me angry for some
That's why
reason.
I took the time to make the pronunciation.
It's like slightly
And
worse than like the guy I'm studying. His whole family recycles all the names. So like everyone is like Eliezer, Stephen, Eunice, like John. It's all multiple people in the
hmm
same family.
I
No,
decided to
I
keep a
hate
name
that.
and it was Eunice.
Oh,
Some
that's the one that
people
gets
Really?
like
passed down
that
to
name.
everyone because she's the
Mm,
sister that like didn't come back, you know.
Mm.
damn, and I'm over here talking trash about Eunice.
It's not a, you know, I don't know that I would keep that going.
I'm gonna keep it as a trend, yeah. Eunice?
Eunice.
Eunice?
Randy, they need last names or
Yeah,
something.
but her dad and her have the exact same name, in my opinion. So
They
we're
do.
both
Well,
berets.
it's like the what's his name? The guy from the Twilight movies, Taylor Lautner, who married Taylor Lautner,
Oh,
and they're gonna have
yes.
a child, and I'm like, are they gonna name the child
It's
Taylor
Taylor.
Lautner?
That's really
Teighl, you know, like
or the
spell it
woman
wrong.
who named all of her kids Prince. All five of her sons are named Prince. And the only thing that's different is their middle names. Have you seen this? It's
No.
I have
insane.
not.
She's like getting through the airport is really hard. And I was like, no
I
shit.
wonder why.
Well, it's like
Your kids are gonna hate their lives and they will never go by that name because it's the same name as their four brothers. What is happening?
Yeah, because it's which prince are you talking about? Because there's
Hmm.
84 of them.
Anyway, okay.
All right.
So this is what we think we might know. Her father was a peasant laborer of some kind and was thought to be illiterate. Again, this is based off of like X's on documents, like not a great amount of evidence, but that's what it is. Her mother died the very next year after she was born, so in 1741 her mother passed. And her father quickly remarried and then lost another wife and then remarried again and then lost another wife. So by the time that she was 15, Jean had lost three mothers and her father because he passed the year of her 15th birthday.
Oh my God. So it went immediately from 17 jock berets to just like her.
Her, just her. Hmm. Hmm. And he did
Wow.
marry another Jean, so I'm sure that was confusing.
Randy.
One of them was another one. Anyway, so she had a brother and a sister, and her sister was already married. She had an older sister, so she had a brother-in-law. And that's where they think that she went and lived and finished growing up into her adulthood was with her sister and her brother-in-law. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we know about her early life. At least all that I have been able to find. I will say that they're like just readily available on the internet. There is a lot of really interesting biographical work that's being done on her. Like there was a resurgence of her story in 2010, and she has since had two biographies published about her, so there might be more information, but again, the majority of that information would be speculative because no new documents have been found. Okay, so the only other thing I could say is that sometime in this period, she did, in fact, receive an education. Because by the time that she signs her first legal document in 1764, at the age of 24, she was able to fully and legibly sign her name. In 1760, Baret met a natural historian and scientist by the name of Philibert Commerson. Philibert had a role in the French Enlightenment movement, and he rubbed elbows with the likes of Voltaire, and more importantly for him, probably, Carl Linnaeus, who just so you guys know, this was a very hot time in history for natural scientists. There was this like really fierce rivalry between the idea that Carl had put forward of classifying in very strict, rigid manners, what we see as our modern day taxonomy, truthfully. So, like that nomenclature of class and species and order, all of that came from Carl Linnaeus. But on the other side was this belief in naturalism where classification was based off of descriptions that really, instead of trying to fit it into a category, highlighted the complexities of nature. And so it was more of just a running catalog that is organized by features rather than specific botany or a biology of any sort. All of this science, though, was deeply tied into the philosophical revolution happening in the French Enlightenment, and it had permeated the general public. So, one of the things you see is that some French philosophers went as far as talking on the subject of these two sparring views of naturalism. And botany had become so popular that the time between 1760 and 1815 in France is marked by botanophilia because there was some mania about botany and all of the work that was coming out by these naturalists, which
I
I
love
think is
Yeah,
really
that.
interesting.
I
Yeah,
want
I
to
was gonna
have
say
that.
I can add a little aside on the American side of things. There are actually people who are paid by folks back in Europe to grow gardens and like send specimens back to Europe, like for, things that grew in America that didn't grow there, for them to examine and be like, oh, like this is how we would classify this or decide the medical use and stuff like that.
Which is
That's
funny
cool.
because right now we're reading that the book club book,
Ice pick surgeon.
Ice Pick
Yes,
Surgeon, yes.
baby.
And and the beginning talks about that a lot, this era of like getting specimens all over the place and sending them
Mhm.
hmm
back, and which makes sense if you can get a reliable source for these things that you can't grow in your area.
Yeah.
Why not exploit that?
Well, the work I've read has talked about how like this is another example of like imperialism and stuff where it's like these folks can't interpret the stuff, right? It's only the folks in Europe who
Yep.
are intelligent
Smart
and
enough. Yep.
educated and stuff to do it. So it's all like very patronizing too for these folks, but they get like paid to collect these specimens.
hmm hmm And one of the things I literally, this is like a great lead in because one of the things is that Jeanne Baret was known as an herb woman. So in that time period, she would prepare like traditional folk medicines and things, poultices and teas using plants and herbs. And that's actually how she met uh this natural historian, Commerson. And she would have been well aware of the jobs and expectations of a natural historian, specifically because of the work that she did as an herb woman, right? And Commerson aligned himself with this new burgeoning ideal of that taxonomy that Carl Linnaeus had put forward. So, like, he was really into that. He had a huge passion for it. And it's speculated that they met through the need of plants. Specifically, in this time period, he was an academic and a scientist, and he would go out and work with these women to secure, kind of like what Greg was saying. The women would then secure in their areas these plants and herbs that the academics or doctors or surgeons or whoever needed for their study or use, right? So, regardless of however they met, because again, this is not documented extensively, she did end up employed by Philibert as a servant, but very quickly began helping him with the work of collecting, preserving, and categorizing plant species, right? Because her her knowledge as an herb woman was pretty much indispensable for him, and they really bonded over that. So much so that she was elevated to be Philibert's housekeeper after the death of his wife in childbirth in 1762. And that was kind of like they say it was the beginning of like this sort of deepening of their relationship into more of a, romantic relationship, which I do think is very interesting because I'm going to continue telling the story. But he basically, at some very shortly in this story, he's about to leave and he leaves his son with his brother-in-law and never sees him again. So this wife that just died, that gave birth to this baby, is raised almost entirely by his uncle and aunt.
He's like, I can't do this. Just like hands the
He's like,
baby.
my career. I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating here, but that's what it's giving. It is giving very white man. I'm focused on me.
He doesn't know what to do with a baby, Randy. Someone
Well,
else's problem now.
and it happens multiple times. So in 1764, Jeanne falls pregnant, which is what is the impetus for him leaving his son with his brother-in-law or his brother and his
Randy.
sister-in-law. Yeah. So despite Paris being more accepting of this relationship style, right? This like servant with her master situation, Jean still had to put her son up for adoption. Like, that is still what ended up happening with this whole situation. She did not get to keep her son named Jean-Pierre.
He said no, not again.
But yeah, he did basically. But so at this time period in France, so again, context, right? At this time period in France, there was a lot of morality happening, right? There was the French Enlightenment, but there was always, you know, the repression of religion. And women were required to make a declaration of pregnancy where they would name the baby's father to the county leadership powers that be, etc., right? So Jean literally leaves her county, travels at that time 30 miles, which was like a long distance on horseback, right? So she travels 30 miles to another county to declare her pregnancy. She brings with her two men, okay, who are speculated to be connected to Philibert, and she makes this declaration that she's pregnant. And everyone's like, tell us who the father is. Tell us who the father is, right? Because he's going to get in trouble too. Crossing my fingers that they would hold him somewhat accountable at the very least. Like, why else collect that fucking information? But she refuses, just straight up refuses. And then these two witnesses that she's brought then claim that she was assaulted and that Jean does not know the name of her baby's father. And that's why she is 5 months pregnant, late to report this pregnancy, and refusing to be cooperative.
It's just wild. It's just wild. They said she don't know, so we
Right?
gotta say something. We
And we're
gotta,
fine, upstanding men, so you got to take our word for it, right? Like, we're
yeah,
standing in
yeah.
for this woman.
That's crazy. She traveled all that way to be like, I ain't telling y'all. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not gonna get it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, that was a roller coaster. What?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
thought my story was dramatic, but like you just
Oh, we haven't even gotten to the dramatic part yet.
It gets worse.
Her
It's just
life
the
is
opening.
crazy. So, so just so you guys can close the chapter on Jean-Pierre, um, he did end up getting adopted. By all accounts, it's speculated that it was a decent family, although what we gauge families on nowadays versus back then, don't know. But he doesn't matter. The child ended up dying within the first year of his life.
Oh.
They say, I think I read that it was the flu that caused it.
Oh.
Now we've reached the riskiest part of the story. So the riskiest part of the story takes place from 1766 to 1775, right? So the actual circumnavigation of the globe. Now, this is like you're thinking, oh my God, Randy, that sounds like 8 or 9 years, like depending on when they leave. Yes, you are correct, but please remember travel was slow as molasses back then, and some things happened on her journey that waylaid her. So just keep that in mind when we're talking through, but let's not skip ahead. So in 1766, again, she had already given her son Jean-Pierre up for adoption. She, has been working since then. There are rumors that she had another child during this time period, but it is only speculation. There wasn't any hard evidence that I could find, but I thought I'd throw that in there just because I thought it was an interesting little tidbit. But in 1766, Philibert was actually offered an insane opportunity from Louis the 15th. He was given the opportunity to join a 3-year, fully sponsored expedition to sail around the world. Remembering the time that we were in, and as Karina and Greg was talking about earlier, the main objective of this voyage was to identify new colonies, trading opportunities for France. But still, the king was sending academics along to fully scope the area out and survey what plants might be useful, to send back or do collections on, what might they want to cultivate, right? So Philibert would join the expedition as the expedition botanist. That was his official title. He was allowed to bring a servant with him, but claimed that he could find no acceptable candidates amongst any of the men available to him. So, who did this leave for him to pick other than Jeanne Baret, who now served as his field assistant and caretaker in his everyday life, right? One major issue left, though, she was, in fact, a woman. Despite all of their, you know, thought processes about getting her to go with him and stuff, she was a woman, and women were not allowed on French naval ships at that time. So they were not allowed. So what were they going to do? Well, they cut her hair. They changed her clothes and they disguised her as a man.
It's like a real life Mulan, kind of.
Yes. Yep, kind of. Yep. But in a way worse situation if possible, like potentially really, really dangerous because of the close confines of a ship,
Mhm.
the inability to flee if something were to happen, right? Like this was a very precarious situation. And I actually have a really hard time believing that someone who loves someone else would ask them to put themselves in this position. Uh, yeah. So
Okay.
I think it's really interesting.
I would like
It's
to
very
remind
interesting.
everyone it is the year we are covering the year 1775.
Yeah.
So if you are a woman, you don't have any rights.
And I don't doubt that she, on some, like, given her passion, I don't doubt that on some level she did in fact want to go, but I can't imagine it was this way. I can't imagine she wanted to do this way.
Yeah.
Um, because at this point she was a caretaker, right? So like I don't think I mentioned it yet, but the leg ulcer that I'm talking about, that was a chronic issue for Philibert. So she was taking care of his leg ulcer. Like he needed her to go with him to help him with his health care needs. Like that was one of the big pushes. Not only was she a great field assistant, but she already knew how to handle his his failing health, right? Not only did they do that, but they needed like an additional ruse. Like so I don't know why it needed to be so strong and multi-layered, but they bound her breasts and they had her join the voyage as a stranger who Philibert basically appoints as his valet on the docks of the ship. So, like, we're supposed to believe that he has known for at least a couple of months that he's going on this voyage. He is allowed to take a fully paid field assistant with him. He can't find any acceptable candidates, so he picks a random person off of the docks on the day of the voyage. Okay, I'm just gonna, and nobody says anything. I don't know. It sounds really questionable, but this was their plan and it did work.
You forget that this is a white man.
And
It's
no one's
different
gonna
when you
question
have the
it.
audacity. You don't question. You just say, oh, well, he said he was going to do it. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well,
He saw his character.
not to
He
like
saw.
make people out as like too simple, but like, the main thing for like women like being on ships is like superstition. That's like bad luck, like with sailors and stuff. So that's like the hurdle they're really having to overcome.
Is that she's not bad luck.
Yeah, no, I
I
mean like sailors that are like superstitious, like
Yeah,
super
because they won't
superstitious.
sail if she's on the ship.
I just don't know why. I don't know what it is that that they think that like I don't know that like why can't he just say, "Oh, I found this field assistant," and bring her already dressed like a man? Like
Oh, why
why
he
did
had
they
to make it a
know?
thing?
Oh,
Yes.
it's like,
Uh,
oh,
Why
I
did
couldn't find anyone. It's this random
yes.
person.
Exactly. Like At the
Randy
time,
doesn't
since
mind
this
that they
is,
took her, but that they randomly picked a stranger for no that they
well,
found in the street.
That's how they
but
sold
like,
it, you know.
and at the time, I already told you that this was a really big, big deal in France. So there were a lot of people who were interested in that study doing that work focused on that. So it wasn't like there wasn't qualified people in Paris. He's in Paris, like the main, like he's in Paris. You're going to tell me there's no one qualified? I don't know. It's just really confusing to me. It's really confusing to me. But that's what's happening. Um, and Jean then changes her name to Jean.
I can't with you, Randy.
A convenient but potentially triggering name change. Dead father, dead son. Anyway, still, so they joined the ship in December of 1766, and they ended up, for the voyage, they ended up sailing on the store ship, the Etoile. Commerson Philibert Commerson was bringing a shit ton to aid in his expedition, right? So much so that the ship's captain surrendered his cabin to Philibert and his assistant, which is a very fucking lucky thing because it gave Jean access to a private bathroom, which ended up really helping her continue to disguise herself, right? Because if she didn't have to pee with everybody else or do any of the bathroom things, she she was gonna make it a lot farther. What I will say though is throughout this time, there were rumors that Jean was a woman. Initially, she was able to deflect suspicion by claiming to be a eunuch that was captured and castrated by the Ottoman forces, which throwback, if you remember, I mentioned in a previous episode about the Sword of Persia, that the Ottomans during this time period were very present but fading. They were a fading empire.
That's also
So
like a thing. So like that would be believable to people, right? Because the
mhm,
eunuchs work in like the
mhm,
harems and stuff.
mhm. Very believable. And it worked, but then became very difficult again when the ship passed the equator. So this is the maritime like thing that I learned about. They were expected to engage in this centuries old tradition called crossing
Mhm.
the line, which is a ceremony. I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes right now, guys. You should know how much I am committed. It is a centuries old tradition called crossing the line. It's a ceremony that commemorates a sailor's first time crossing the equator. So, this ceremony was often very harsh and incredibly hazing heavy. Okay. So, it was like this whole performance where like shellbacks are what they call the most seasoned not pirates, well, the most seasoned officers on a ship, right? Because this is a naval ship, and they dress up as King Triton and like members of that court, and they like put these first time sailors through trials and tribulations, right? That's like this whole thing, and there's like a standard ritual and a way that they go about doing it that's unique to them or whatever, but it's this whole farce of a king's court that's happening, but it's bad. And generally speaking, the sailors are completely naked for the ritual, which wasn't going to work. So Jeanne stayed fully clothed, possibly to her detriment. They were doused in seawater. They did things like submerging them in net dunking, where they would like hold them over and put them in the water and then haul them up with a net. Like they were doing all kinds of things, and really subjecting them to rough treatment. So they would literally cover them in shit. They would force them to eat slop. They would hang them out over the railing and throw things at them while the ship was moving. Like, this ritual was not kind. at all.
Randy, it sounds like they got bored halfway through and they were like, I think we should make a ritual.
Where we
If
just fuck the lowest person on the totem pole.
literally, yes.
Like
Well,
this day
we,
and age hazing, but like
yeah,
Yeah.
extreme, extreme
yeah,
hazing.
it's craziness.
Well, her lack of nudity drew suspicion. Okay. So, it drew suspicion. She had to talk her way out of it, and this voyage was not easy. Commerson also journaled about significant seasickness and continued issues with his leg ulcer that made his journey very difficult. So it's speculated that one of the things that kind of helped her out during this beginning time was that she was very often, instead of being on deck or roaming about, she was very often in the cabin tending to Philibert Commerson's health issues. Their work started once the ship reached Montevideo in Uruguay. Once there, they set out on expeditions to collect specimens and understand the terrain of the area. Due to his leg being in such bad shape, it's believed that Jean actually did the majority of the labor. And by believed, I mean it is straight up written. Commerson's journal did make it out, so he a lot of this is of his own account. They the ship moved up to Rio de Janeiro, but they ended up being confined to the ship due to hostile encounters on the shore. So the natives had actually killed the priest by that point. So like it was hostile in Rio. And uh they went back down then to Montevideo and then on to Patagonia, which that area is said to, in the journals, is said to have tested them the most. The terrain and the rockiness was just really difficult on them. And it gave Jean the reputation of courage and strength amongst the crew because of how hard she was laboring to do the work that was given to the botanist, right? Commerson writes in his journal, he calls her his beast of burden on these expeditions. Okay, so like an absolute beast is what she was, right? She was being a beast on these expeditions, hauling this shit. In addition to lugging all of their stuff around, she helped in organizing and cataloging notes and specimens in the time that it took them to return to the Pacific Ocean. Now, while they were in Rio, they had also met up with that other vessel, the La Boudeuse, which was commanded by Admiral Louis Antoine de Bougainville. And the one flowering vine species that they were able to recover in Rio was actually named Bougainvilliers, which was after the expedition leader. Unfortunately, though, the jig would be up in 1768 when the ship reached Tahiti. Um, there's two different stories of this, so I'm gonna give you both. One was that Jean was outed by the natives of the island. Like once she had landed, the natives of the island circled her and started yelling and pointing and telling the ship uh crew members that she was a woman. And then she was rescued by the crew, and that's how it was uncovered. This is the nice version of the story. The other story claims that she was confronted by crew members and sexually assaulted that year when they were in an area of Papua New Guinea. Choose whichever version you will. Subsequently, though, Jean was confined to her cabin then for the next portion of the voyage until they reached the French trading station known now as Mauritius. And in another stroke of luck for the couple, the governor of this trading station was actually an old friend of Commerson's and was a fellow botanist. So he kind of understood the love. He had friendship going with them, and this meant that Jean as we can now call her again, and Commerson could stay behind as guests and were removed from the expedition because they were no longer welcome aboard the ships. So it was really good for everybody.
They were like, and now you can go.
Yeah, you can get the fuck out. So they just left them in this place, and they stayed there for 3 years in Mauritius. So this place, just so you guys know, is an island. Mauritius is an island that is not far from Madagascar, off of the coast of the southern coast of Africa. And they stayed there for 3 years and ended up going out on a lot of botanical expeditions to Madagascar and other islands that were close enough. But the next large life change was on its way. After dealing with many health crises, Commerson died early in 1773, leaving Jeanne with very little, unfortunately. Their friend had the governor who had been hosting them through this time had been recalled to Paris, and she was alone on the island now. Now, alone doesn't mean much to this scrappy woman. I tell you what, because she ended up running a tavern in Port Louis where it said that she was fined 50 livres for serving alcohol on Sundays in that same year of 1773. So she was like, I'm gonna make my money, bitch.
And you know what? The alcohol's where it's at. She knew.
Yeah, she did. And by 1774, she had ended up marrying a man by the name of Jean Dubernay.
You're lying.
I am not. I am
Oh my
absolutely
gosh.
not.
Do the French know there are other names? Like,
Does
are
this
they
family know
legally?
there are other names?
No, they do not actually, and they will only marry people also named
Jean.
Jean.
So he was a non-commissioned officer in the army, most likely at the port on his way back to France, right? So by the time that they got married, Jean had accumulated a tidy little sum. You know, she was a tavern, she owned a property by that point. Like she had something that she brought to the marriage with her. And now that they were married and comfortable, the couple made their way back to France in 1775. That final piece was the final piece of her voyage, which was the completion of her circumnavigating the globe. And it did take her about 8 years time with that 3 year waylay. But you know what? Odysseus took longer, and we're all about to watch a movie about that this summer. So I'm just saying, it could have been worse. Once back in in France, she received a lot of accommodation. So it turned out that Commerson had left her his money and some furnishings in his will prior to their maritime departure. So I do not know what he left his biological son that is being raised by his brother, but I know that his housekeeper turned lover turned assistant and caretaker was cared for. The couple then settled into the Dordogne. No, I'm not gonna get this one. Dordogne region and lived near their nieces and nephews. In a fun turn of events, in 1785, she was granted a pension of 200 livres by the French Ministry of Marine, and this document recognized her accomplishments of travel and science. And she lived wealthy at that point, and by all accounts, happy until 1807, where she passed away at the age of 67. So, what was the accomplishments of this lifetime? just in that short span that I was covering, the completion of her circumnavigation in 1775, she and Commerson were able to collect over 6,000 plant samples that got returned to a bunch of different people, turned into science. Like there is one here in New York on display. There's one at the British Museum. They're like kind of just all over the place in different institutes and seed banks and just a lot of really cool places that these specimens ended up making it. And they were able to identify several dozens, if not hundreds, of new species. Um, Unfortunately, most honorary names were done for Commerson rather than Baret. So I think she actually didn't even get really any of the plants named after her officially until recently because he did not say specifically, like you can look at the nomenclature of some of the things that they named and you can tell that he named it after her. There were like three that looked similar to Baret, but nothing specific. Uh, and like I said, a lot of this is all coming out because of those biographies that were being published, which interestingly, the 2020 biography that came out ended up doing so well that Google did a birthday celebration for Jeanne Baret in on her 280th birthday celebration, I think is what it said. And she was one of 10 inspirational French women who were celebrated with golden statues during the opening ceremonies of the 2024 Summer Olympics in France. And then just this year, literally just this year, earlier this year, her name was included on a list of 72 historical women in STEM that are proposed to join the 72 names of Frenchmen already enshrined on the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so she's like,
Yeah.
we're this is pertinent. We're in the age of a woman getting her dues, and you might get to witness that in first time, real time.
All while knowing what she actually did and who she actually was. Amazing.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think she's amazing. And I also thought that this was really good because I was doing this reflection, and I thought that Lucy Gray would have really liked Jeanne Baret. I think they would have just gotten on with that brazen kind of like, I'm gonna get through it attitude. It just felt right.
I could see
Okay.
it.
But that's me. That's the story of the first woman from France who circumnavigated the globe.
Oh,
That was
Randy.
excellent.
Yeah, it was
I'm
really
glad
good.
you liked it.
Um, I
And
can't lie.
once
Every
again,
Here I
time,
am.
every time you said by the name of, I looked at Karina. I can't lie.
that's another one like
I
if I would
warned
have
you.
known another drinking game, we would have died, Randy. Dead. Dead.
I warned you at the beginning, did I not?
Ugh.
I told you
Enraging.
that's why you needed to know how I was gonna say it. I know.
It's literally that meme. I'm gonna make that meme. The one that it's the same photo. It's the
Mm,
same photo. What's the difference between these photos?
it's the same photo.
I
Hmm.
know. And you keep saying it, you're like, listen closely. This is the difference.
Well, I just
Jean
also love
and
that she
Jean.
ended up, I love that she ended up in a marriage exactly like her parents too, because that was also another Jean and Jean pairing. At the end of the day, she's living a legacy.
Yeah, it
She's a
reminds me of
hoot.
the Spider-Man meme where it's like Spider-Man all pointing at each other.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
I just think throwing it back to our Empress of the Ocean, our pirate queen, right? Like when she left piracy, she didn't leave quietly. So it just makes me think, what were they up to in that provincial little town? Like, this is a woman who made a tidy sum to get back home by selling liquor on Sundays. So, at a tavern in the off the Cape of Africa. So like this is a woman who is not going to sit idly by in a small little rural village. That's just not my sense of her. That's not my
Yeah.
take.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't think
have
that
to
was
read
her
one
vibe
of those
either.
books. I'll have to read one of those books.
Another one, Randy? Another
Another,
one?
I can't add another one to my list. My Goodreads is like, you're already behind. I'm like, I know. Okay. I've got one life. This isn't the astral library, even if I want it to be. Anyway, okay. I really am done. I'm glad you liked it though, guys. I was happy to share something happy.
Thank you so much for listening to our part one of 1775. I am so grateful to Randy for bringing a story of a woman's accomplishment when we don't get to hear about those enough. So thank you. But for now, we gotta go. But please be tuned in. I will be talking about more context on the Battle of Lexington and Concord on our next episode. But for now, goodbye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.